So I'd like to give you a little bit of a historical synopsis before we get into the topic. The Tkufa of the Tanoim is really split to 5.5 generations. The half a generation is the generation, according to the Rambam, who is the first generation after the Chasimas HaMishnah. The Rambam in Akdoma to Pirush HaMishnah in Zroim says that in the Mishnah, there's 128 Tanoim mentioned throughout Shas, whereby 91 of them mention Biglal Halacha She'omru, because they said a certain halacha, and another 37, says the Rambam, is Be'inyan Drash Maise Shechosu, which is unique because some of the Tanoim mentioned, the Rambam specifies each and every one of these Tanoim, he itemizes them, and some of them, if we read them in the Mishnah, they mention only once or twice, is really a halacha, but the Rambam comes and defines them as Inyan Drash or Maise She'osu, and this is very, very unique and special. Not here is the mokum to be marchiv, but it's good to know. The first two generations, Doires, the Doir Harishain, as the Rambam called the Doir Hasheni, is Tanoim and Chachomim who lived and functioned during the time of the Beis HaMikdash. The first Nossi in the generation of the Doir Harishain of Tanoim was Rabbi Gamliel HaZoken, who was an Einikel of Hillel HaZoken. And in the second generation who took over after Rabbi Gamliel HaZoken was Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Harishain. There was later another Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. He was Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Harishain. The third generation is the Tkufa of the Tanoim who lived throughout the Tkufa of the Churban. Godel Shebekulam was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He's the one who rearranged the Yiddish Leben right after the Churban Abayis. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was against the merit in the Remoim, and prior to the Churban of Yerushalayim, he managed to escape with the assistance of his two Talmidim, Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Shua. He went to Aspasianus, who at the time was the Memune, but later on became the case of Rabi, and he told him, Tenli Yavne v'chachomeo, he wanted to reconstruct Torah up in the north in Yavne, Tenli Yavne v'chachomeo. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai did not, he although established 44 takonos, he did not stay long in Yavne. At the very first time that you were able to be crowned Rabbi Gamliel, who was the Einikel from the Sheishelis of Beis Hillel, Mishevet Yehuda, Lo Yosu Shevet Mi Yehuda, Mechekek Mi Ben Raglov, he left Yavne to Rabbi Gamliel, and he went and he opened a new Beis Medrash in a place called Bru Chayil. Rabbi Gamliel establishes Nesias, and he was very strong about it, and he let all the Chachomim know that all the Psakim and all the halachas that are going to take place are going to be Basar Reiv. His brother-in-law, Rabbi Lezer ben Horkinus, was a very, very tough man, and he wasn't really willing to accept the Das HaReiv in halacha, and the famous story, they had to be Menade, Rabbi Lezer ben Horkinus, and this is the very famous story of Rabbi Gamliel and his shvoger, Rabbi Lezer ben Horkinus. Together with them, in Yavne, with Rabbi Gamliel, after Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai left, was Rabbi Shua ben Chananya, who was a napoch in his profession. He wasn't too good looking. He was a ganze meise mibas. In the case of Rabi, told him, such a wise man in such a kli mechur. And he, Rabbi Shua, was a diplomat, and he tried to break down the olam not to be moired in Adrianus, who was the case at the time. He went ganze Sugyas HaGemorah in Umfang Maseches Bechoros, Bechochmosif, and Rabbi Shua. Rabbi Shua ben Chananya was able to battle against the Chachmei Atuna, Chachmei Yavan, Chachmei Raimi, and he was there together with Rabbi Gamliel. Other friends, which are mentioned in some places in Shas as Chaverim of Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar ben Horkenus, and who was excommunicated sometimes in Yavne, and Rabbi Shua ben Chananya, is Rabbi Chanina ben Doise and Rabbi Tarfon. Those Chachomim together established a body. This body was called Chachmei Kerem de Yavne. They, Lemaise, based the fundamentals of the Mishnah that we have, the Shisha Sidra Mishnah. In Emerson, if anybody ever learned Maseches Idios, the Maseches Idios is a transcript of what was going on in this Besmedrish called Kerem de Yavne. Kerem means the grapevine of Yavne, where the Yavne V'Chachamea was. And Lemaise, all the arguments, Heid Rabbi Shua, Heid Rabbi Gamliel, Heid Rabbi Elazar, this was Edison that they gave over from the previous generation, which was the fundamental basics for the Mishnah. Lemaise, they basically paskened all the shilas in order to eliminate the machlekes, and it's very fascinating. Anybody who ever learned Maseches Idios. This is all the third generation. We would like to talk today about the next generation. And the next generation is the people who were basically 5 people were in the next generation. It was Rabbi Akiva, that we know, the famous Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who was elected to become the Nasi after Rabbi Gamliel, and he was 18 years of age, or maybe 16 or 17, as if you take Yerushalmi. That he grew a beard with 18 white hair. He was Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah that was chosen to become the Nesiah Sanhedrin. And together with them, there were 2 Chachomim called Shimon ben Azai and Shimon ben Zoyma. They weren't called Rabi. Und steht in the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, the reason why they weren't called Rabi, because those 2 Chachomim were Yoshvim Lifnei HaChachomim, but they weren't Chachomim themselves. In other words, some of them were Magchirs, and some of them, in today's language, we would call it Neisa ben Neisa. They didn't have a title of a Rebbe, but rather they had a title of Yoshvim Lifnei HaChachomim. Und steht in Gemara that when Nichnesu the Pardes, when they went from the Kerem to the Pardes to be Oisek in Sisra Torah, Harisha in Heitzitz Vemes, one of them was Heitzitz. He picked and he died, and the second one is Heitzitz Venivko. Rabbi Akiva was Ge'oin HaGoyin. I would like to talk today a little bit about Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Rabbi Akiva steht in the Gemara in Yevomes, in the Sugya from Tzora Sabas and Dafta Zion, when they walked into Rav Doisa ben Arkinas to discuss the heter of Tzora Sabas. Says Rav Doisa ben Arkinas was at the time in his 90s. Ato Akiva ben Yosef sheshmoi hoylech misoifa oilom ve'at soif. Rabbi Akiva is shmoi hoylech at the time, misoifa oilom ve'at soif. There was, at the time, just to give you a historical background, the Mered of Bar Kochva took place at the time, and Rabbi Akiva was part of those fundamentals who were supporting the Mered. Not only was it supporting, wie sie steht in andere Sforim, by Rabbi Shtori Aparchi and others, in Yosifus, that Rabbi Akiva went to collect money, even went outside of Eretz Yisrael to raise some funds in order to sponsor and to finance Mered Bar Kochva. Rabbi Akiva was caught by the Ramoim, and Lemaise, if we look through Shas, we find the history of Rabbi Akiva. He was conducting his Rebisteve, and he continued teaching from jail. And some of the hakpodah in the mitzvahs that he did throughout being a prisoner in jail, until the bitter end, where he's Moise Nefesh, Koire Krishma, where the Roimoim are Salku es besoroi b'masreikois shel Basel. He died, and afterwards the entire Eretz Yehuda, v'sishtet in Chazal, was eradicated throughout there, the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. Lemaise, once the Mered Bar Kochva and the Churban of Beitar, was steht nicht more, the ganze Aruga Beitar, the Andrianos Kaiser was Geiser Gzeirus, very much similar to the Gzeirus of Antiochus, not allowed to learn Torah, and you're not allowed to be Seimech Chachomim. One of the basic Gzeirus of Adrianus Kaiser was Osur Lismoich Es HaChachomim. L'maise, Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba was one of the Talmidim with Moise Nefesh, and he was Seimech 5 or 6, totally in Reb Shaya Pik's Girser, of the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, and they ran away. They escaped the last moment. If you read the stories, the last moment they escaped, and Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba, we read about him, Nasora Agudah Malchus, was caught by the Remoim, and he was killed. Once, it took a few years, 7 or 8 years, till there was a beetle on the Xeris of Adrianus, and when the Matzav was still in the aftermath of the Gzeira, they weren't able to reestablish Torah in Eretz Yehuda, and they moved up north to the Eretz HaGolil, and there they continue their functions. The Gemara says that the 5th generation after Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was after the Mois Yud Beis Elef Zugei Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was established a new generation of Talmidim. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, the second, not the first, the anacle of the first Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, was the Nasi. Rabbi Akiva was the Rosh Hashiva, and 24,000 Talmidim died b'tkufa sheben Pesach la'atzeres. We're going to soon see why they died and what is the importance of what we're speaking about right now. L'maise, the 5 Talmidim, there were basically 7 Talmidim, but the 5 main Talmidim mentioned in most of the Midrashim, which was Talmid Rabbi Akiva, was Rabbi Yehuda ben Rabbi Loi, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, unsere Rabbi Shimon von Lag Baimer, Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafte, who was the one who established the Braise from Seder Olam, Rabbi and Zuta, Rabbi Meir, Stam Mishnik Rabbi Meir, and Rabbi Nechemia. On the sidelines, there were another 2 Chachomim mentioned in some Chazal. One of them was Rabbi Loza ben Shamua, and the other one was Rabbi Yochanan HaSandlar. Just to let you know, that Rabbi Meir was the one who collected all the Messiahs of the Mishnah, and basically, V'kulu Shteit Nigmo, V'kulu Alib Rabbi Akiva, all the Torahs which went into the Mishnahs al Pi Rabbi Akiva's Mishnahs Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Yehuda ben Rabbi Loi was the one who established the Medrash of Safroda Beirav. Well, that's the Safroda we have on Teras Koyanim and Vayikra. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai was the one who established the Sifri and Bamidbar Devarim, and Mechilta Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. The fact that Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai did not write the Zohar is a very controversial issue. Nicht azay pashat. Many of the Gdolei Akadmoinim held Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai had nothing to do with the Sefer HaZohar. But we're not going to talk about it right now. Was steht Yeklo in the Sugyas Hashas in the Gemara? Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai is the one who wrote the Sifri and Bamidbar and Dvarim. That's the Braisa of the Sifri. And the Mechilta of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, not the Mechilta, the regular Mechilta was established by Rabbi Shmuel, but the Mechilta of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, where the next generation, which is called Chetzi Doir, according to the Rambam, is the Tkuf of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, where Torah v'Gdula b'Mokom Echad, he was very, very much in touch with the case of Rabi, and he used the piece, the industrial piece that he created, and he wrote the Mishnah. Rabbi Akiva, who is Rabbi Akiva's Rebbe? L'maise, the 2 people who taught Rabbi Akiva, and the older generations of the Talmidim of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, but the 2 Talmidim of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, which is Rabbi Shua and Rabbi Lezer ben Orkenus, were the Rebbes of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Shua was Beis Hillel. He went in the derech of Beis Hillel. Rabbi Lezer ben Orkenus was in the derech Beis Shammai, that Rabbi Akiva combined Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, that Shteit Nigmore, that Kol Lemaise, anything, Stam Mishnas or Meir, Stam this, Stam that. V'kula libid Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva is the one who combined what you accepted from Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shua, which basically was a blend of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. I would like to talk to you. This is the historical synopsis we're holding over here in the Doira Hamishi of Rabbi Akiva, who comes after Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai in between. By the way, this whole Tkufa is a Tkufa of 180 years, this 5.5 generations. And we're holding Otot by the end of Tkufa Satanoim, where Rabbi Akiva establishes his Talmidim. I would like to speak about the Gemara in Maseches Yevomis, in Daf Samach Beis Amud Beis. We learned, to anybody who's learning Daf Hayomi, learned it some 2 weeks ago. And I'm quoting, steht in Gemara Azeh, Omru, Shneim Osor Elef Zugim Talmidim Hoyu Lo Rabbi Akiva Migvas Ve'ad Antiparis Ve'kulam Meisu Beperek Echod Mipnei Shelo Nohagu Kovoid Ze Beze. The Gemara adds on 3 words. Ve'hoya ha'olam shomeim. The world was shomeim, was a shmama. Zogt Rashi, ve'hoya ha'olam shomeim min Talmud Torah. The Meiri state, nishtakcho Torah. But after this 24,000 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva died in this Tkufa, in Pesach ve'ad Atzeres, ve'hoya ha'olam shomeim. Ad shebo Rabbi Seid, Rabbi Akiva tzal Rabbi Seid shebedorim, v'shno Elohem. Who are those? Remember, Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba was saying those Talmidim who ran away from Yehuda down south. The Gemara states Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Elazar ben Shammua. Vehem emidu Torah. Tono kulo meisu mipesach adatzetz Omar Rav Chame barabe v'yitei Rav Chia barabe kulo meisu misaro mai Omar Rav Nachman askara. Askara. As a sort of misa mishuna, where it's in the peh, in the loya, in the lungs. The ganze shaila amongst the meforshim what's askara, but l'maise it's a chayli bepeh bebeis habliya and in the lungs, respiratory. Fragen the gdolei hameforshim, what does it mean for hoya olam shomim? L'maise, if we know what was happening during the time Rabbi Akiva ran his besmedrash alongside Rabbi Akiva, so Rabbi Shmuel had his own besmedrash with his own talmidim. Rabbi Tarfon also had a besmedrash. Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar ben Azai also had a besmedrash. So gestorben, hein, talmide Rabbi Akiva v'hoya oilem shomeim, there's no more Torah. What's the pshat in them? Steht doch in Sefer Reb Tzodek HaKoyen, and he says something, and I would like to add on kama v'kama nekudos niflois, which is chidushim shelo yishma'atom ha'oizen many, many years. Rab Tzodek says, Lemaise, if you look in a few places in Shas, you find there is very, very clear similarity between the Torah Shebiksav, which was given to Moshe Rabbeinu, and the Torah Sheba'al Peh, which was given via Rabbi Akiva to his Talmidim. I would like to quote, Reb Tzodek brings down a shita mekabetzes in Ksubis in Daf Mem, state v'yeshloimar, quote unquote, mishum shehoya oilem shomim ad shebo Rabbi Akiva v'shno Elohem yilkoch kol echod mitalmidav, any one of these 5 talmidim shehu mechaven ledaitoi arei hiskim la'alocha, right? Rabbi Akiva hoyo lohem b'mokoim Moshe Rabbeinu Adon HaNeviim olav hasholim lefi shekvar nishtakach Torah sheba'al peh ad shebo hu ushno. Steht in Shite, the Torah was given, Torah shebiksav, Torah sheba'al peh through Moshe Rabbeinu. But at that time, at that kuf of Rabbi Akiva, Torah sheba'al peh was nishtakach. And Rabbi Akiva reignited it through rejuvenating Torah sheba'al peh to these 5 talmidim shebedorim. I'd like to say kama v'kama nekudas. There's a famous Gemara in Menachos and Avchovtes Amud Beis, stating Gemara Azeh. Omar Rabbi Yud, Omar Rabbi Shor Shaol. The Gemara is talking about the sugya of Kutzel Shel Yud Me'akev, and writing Sefer Torah, even a tag is Me'akev. So the Gemara B'Shor Shaol Moshe L'Amor Mitzor LaKadosh Baruch Hu Sheyoshev V'Koiser Ksorim Lo'Oisius Kodesh Baruch Hu is tying ksorim, crowns, to the oisius. Omar lefonov, Ribono shel olam, mi me'akev al yotcha? Who's me'akev? Doesn't say anymore. What does it mean? Who me'akev al yotcha? Omar le odom echod yesh, ve'Akiva ben Yosef shmoy. Omar le, I'm cutting, abbreviating the Gemara. Omar le, Ribono shel olam, yesh lecha odom ze v'atanoisen teira al yodi. Omar le, shtoik kach olo b'machshovo lefonai. What does it mean? Mi me'akev al yotcha. But give it go. But Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to get the Torah. Sees that Kodesh Baruch Hu is busy in writing tagim and kosher ksorim to oisius. More it calls the tagim a keser, some kind of a crown on top of the ois. And he says, Mi me'akev al yotcha. What's mean mi me'akev al yotcha? Zog the Briskerov, b'chiyat amol from my Rebbe, Rabbi Sheber, b'shem his father, the Briskerov. So he's doing Ramban in Parshas Vayelech. Ramban brings down from a sefer called Sefer Tagi, which a sefer was written by Tanoim about the Hilchas Ksiva Sefer Torah, that in the time of Ezra Sefer, there were matik all the tagim from the Yud Beis Avonim that Moshe wrote the Torah on in Avos Moav. And for those Avonim, as I state in Ramban, from those Avonim they knew how to write the tagging in Sefer Torah. And the kasha is obvious. What do you mean, Oisam Avonim? Daf Nemen, you have to take an archaeological exhibit preserved from Moshe Rabbeinu. That's Sefer Torah. There was no Tekuf in Klal Yisrael. Sefer Torah were not around. So if you want to know how to write the tagging, you go ahead, Ezra, and you copy from the previous Sefer Torah from 50 years ago, from 100 years ago, so on and so forth. Why weren't the matik the Torah from the previous forum? Dr. Briskerov, the Gemara steht in Sanhedrin, Daf Chafal Hom Beis, that until Ezra Sefer came, the Torah was given in Ksav, in a font called Ksav Livoino. And from Ezra Sefer, there was a nevuah that Torah has to be written Ashuris. We have today the Ksav, we read the Sefer Torah, the Ksav is called Ksav Ashuris. But until Ezra Sefer steht in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, the Torah was written Ksav Livoino. So the Briskerov, this din that Oisius need tagging is only Ksav Ashuris. But in Ktav Livoino, there is no need of tagging. Therefore, Bimei Ezra, that you had to write Torah Ashuris, the Gemara says he was the first one who wrote Torah Ashuris, you couldn't be matik from the tagim of the Sefer Torah that was before, because it was Ksav Livoino, and there was no, in those Sefer Torah which they had in stock until the time of Ezra Sefer, which comes, by the way, Ezra Sefer comes around 10 generations before this Tkufa of Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara states the Deir Asir, Ezra Sefer, Avos ben Azariah was Deir Asir. Talking about a Tkufa of a couple hundred years before. And Ezra Sefer did not have the ability to copy from a Sefer Torah because in Ksav Livoino there was no tag. There were ksuvim, steht in Gemara, b'shivim loshen, steht the ganze Sugyas HaGemara in Seite. And in the shivim loshen boyer heitev, there was there also Ksav Ashuris. The Torah wasn't given by Ksav Ashuris, but Spanish, Flemish, German, English, all the shivim loshen that the Torah was given it, Moshe was metargim the Torah to shivim loshen. One of the languages, one of the ksavim was Ksav Ashuris, which did have targim. But Moshe was not given that ksav. Moshe was told that the original Sefer Torah has to be given over. The tzura of Mesirah of Ibergem Torah was Ksav Livoino because Ksav Ashuris was not given for Torah. It was one of the languages, the foreign languages, which the Torah was Meturgam and Boyer Hativ. Zog the Gemara comes, Zog the Briskerov, maybe there were matik, the tagging from these archaeological items, which they did not have elsewhere, but in this Yud Beis Avonim, Shekos HaBoishes Atayah B'Shivim Loshen. Comes out that Rabbi Akiva was Doirish Tilim Shel Alochas Al Kol Tag V'Tag V'Al Kol Koitz V'Koitz. Where did Rabbi Akiva Vutzach the song geben? It's only from the time that there was a Gzeira that the Torah should give, not Gzeira, Tzivui, the Torah should be given in Ashuris. They had to write Tagim. But prior to that, when the Torah was given over in Ksav Livoino, there couldn't be any Tagim. Zog der Briskerov, that's a pshat Gemara. Moshe came l'morim, the Kodesh Baruch Hu was koisher, Togim lo Oisius means to the Oisius of the Ksav Ashuris. And to Moshe, you only gave the Torah b'ksav l'vnei. What was to Moshe? Mi me'akev al yotchu. Give me already the Torah gleich b'ksav ashur with the tagim, and we will darsha all those tilim shel halaches al kol tag v'tag. Omar le odom echod osid liyas b'seif kol adeiras v'akiva b'yesuf shmoi. He's going to dash him, and not you. Fragtem, Ribono shel olam, yesh lecha odom kazeh, and you give Torah al yod, give it gleich to Rabbi Akiva. Give him the Torah. If that was the gzeira, that was the machshove before b'fnei akisa hakoved, give him the Torah b'ksav ashuris that he should write. Omar le shtoi kacholo b'machshove zog the b'skerov. That was the tzur of Iber given Torah. There were generations that Torah has to be given with livino, and in that ksav there is no oisies, there is no tagim lo oisies. And la'osid lovei in the title of Akiva after Ezra Sefer will reestablish Torah b'ksav ashuris where there is tagim. This koishe tagim lo oisies of Akiva was doyesh kol koitz v'koitz from every tag and tag comes out. At kan divrei briskerov kifi sheshamati comes out very interesting, very fascinating. Comes out that there is a chelik in Torah which was given over to Rabbi Akiva and was not given to Moshe Rabbeinu. Rabbi Akiva had part in the Torah, not because of anything else, but because the Torah, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave the Torah in basically two phases. Phase number one, there was a ksav livino, which was given with ad ksarim loisius, resulting in not having the ability to darshak tiltim shel halachas and kol koitz v'koitz. And then there's a Torah in the Tkufa Rabbi Akiva, where the Torah does have a tagim, where is a ksav ashuris, and Rabbi Akiva is darshaning tilim shel halachas, old Torah Shabbal Peh, which is given to Rabbi Akiva. You know, Rashi says in the pasuk when Moshe Rabbeinu says lo yochal oid losas v'lovei, so the Rashi melamed shenistak tmu mimenu ma'ayonos hachochma. But in that day, the Moshe Rabbeinu died, nistam ma'ayonos hachochma. If you look in the Gemara in the end of Seitek, Moshe Mishemeis this, Mishemeis Rabbi Akiva, Botl Zoria Toyev and Istatmel Mayonas HaChochme. So we have the two kinds of Mayonas HaChochme. We have Mayonas HaChochme of Moshe mit Zayin Ibergeben Torah, and we have Mayonas HaChochme of all this Torah Shabbal Peh that Rabbi Akiva darshened out of this Tagim Loisius. You know, we find a lot of similarity between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. I'd like to say a word from the Goyen. And the Goyen says, Bekama Mekoyim is that Moshe Rabbeinu is the Shoyrish of Torah Shebiksav. Rabbi Akiva is the Shoyrish of Torah Shebal Peh. Vos mein v'hoyo ha'oilom shomeim. What does that mean? Zog the Goyen. Moyer the Goyen. Zog the Goyen azay. The Gemara steht nach the Zohar in Daftes, steht in Gemara, Tona de Velio, Shis alfei shone ave alme. The world was created to last 6,000 years. Beis alofim toyu, beis alofim teire, and beis alofim b'mois HaMashiach. The Gemara makes a cheshbon. Why beis alofim toyu? Because Avram Avinu was born, as mentioned, as Kuban Harayin during the Bes Medrash Veisen, Avram Avinu was born in 1948 L'Brias Ha'olam, until Avram was Megayer Anoshim V'Sanefesh She'ovu B'chol, and the Gemara makes, Rashi makes it with a Cheshbon, the Gemara was 52 years of age. So it comes out that till Torah was given, though there was Bes Mod Roshim Sheshev Ve'ever, but as a Nefesh Asher Osu B'chol, the Inyan of Torah of Talmid Rav was not established till Avram was 52, which is 1948, exactly 2,000 years. That's called Shnei Alofim Toyu. Shnei Alofim was Torah. And afterwards is Yemois HaMashiach. So the Goyen I'm quoting, the Goyen is in Safra Tznius. Ki ha'Torah nistayem v'ne'elom b'soif daled alofim shono kayadua. So the Goyen ubeoisom hashonim izgalgalim kol ataf taf kuf ayin daled deir shem ha'erev rav shem ha'neshomas mo'ilam ha'toyu. The Goyen says, I will go revisit it in a minute. The Goyen says in Shir Hashirim, so the Goyen in Perek Vov in Shir Hashirim, in Yonoi, I'm quoting the Goyen, in Yonoi shel Rabbi Akiva, shel yo'achar ha'churban legalois shuv Torah. V'kivan shemeisu chavdal elov talmidim arei sheshuvo yo'elam shoimem shechozar liyois toyu. Ayen Rashi reish bereishis, the Loshen toyu uke'odom ha'toye umishtoimem. Toyu chozar oilam. We know 2,000 years is Toyu. There was another 2,000 years Toyu. Toyu b'mayu on Teire. Avram Avinu v'sanever she'osu b'choron, he commences the Tkufa of Torah, which begins then and ends exactly in the year 3998. That's the Tkufa, that's the year the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva died. So the Goyim v'Oyo Olam Shamim, the Olam went back, instead of moving to the next phase of Yemois HaMashiach, which according to the Goyim is Torah and Yemois HaMashiach. When the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva died, v'Oyo Olam Toyu means to say v'Oyo Olam Shamim, that was back to the Torah of Oyo. We're going back 2,000 years, pressed backwards in the retrospect. We're going back, no more Torah Shabbal Peh. You know, these one of the Sforim of Talmidei Agoyen is Mendel Shklover. There were two brothers, Rabbi Skor Shklover and Mendel Shklover. And Mendel Shklover has a Sefer Likutim. And the Sefer Likutim is two Chalokim. In Chelak Beis, anybody wants to look inside, in Ois Vov Simen Chofei, Zokter, on the Pasuk, in Shiur-Talmidei, Umimatona Nachliel Bomes, Umebomes Agai Asher B'Sdei Moav Roisha Pisgo, V'nishkefo Al Pnei HaYeshimoim. This pasuk, steht in Gemara in Eruvin in Daf Nun Daled, goes on Torah Shabbal Peh. More says, Matona, Nachliel, Machnias Bomes, and Torah Miskayemes El Mishe. Somebody who's humble, the Torah goes like water, goes from Mokum Gavoya to Mokum Nomuch. Zogt, Reb Mendel Shklove gehört von der Goyen. V'nishkefo al pnei hayeshimoin. What does it mean, yeshimoin? Chozar aber al hayeshimoin shu inyan toyu. וכפירש רש"י שהוא לושן מדבר שהוא שומם, ועיין בפרשת האזינו ימצאו בארץ מדבר ובסויו ילל ישימוין. והחיבור אליו הוא על ידי תורתו של רבי עקיבא שהוא שורש תורה שבעל פה, שנשקף על פני הישימוין. זוגת רב מנדל שקלובר von der Goyim, what is ישימוין? ישימוין eine ראש תיבס יהודה, שימוין, יויסי, Meir, and the Chemie. V'nishkefal pnei Yeshimon, after Torah goes into a phase of Toyu, after Torah goes into Shimemoin, to a Toyu B'vayu, is v'nishkefal there, Yeshimon, the Chibur, is through the Torah of Akiva, he's the Sheyesh Torah Shebal Peh, Shenishkefal pnei Yeshimon, I'm quoting, Shorosh Tevis, the Heit Talmid of Rabbi Seni Shebedorim, Shelimdon Torah, Achar Shechazor Oilam Li Yishomim. So Rabbi Akiva reestablishes Torah, v'nishkefal pnei Yeshimon Torah Shebal Peh. After his Talmidim were gone, they no longer Talmidim. Finished. Torah Shebal Peh is nishkach. And the Chazar Olam Liyosu B'Soyu Yelu Yeshimon, v'nishkefal pnei Yeshimon. And he takes that shmama and he reconstructs it through the Yeshimon, through the Rosh Tevis. It's the Remes of the 5 Talmidim who reignited and rebuilt again Torah Shebal Peh. I'd like to take it a little bit further. The Gemara states that Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai went, the ganze story that Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai was sitting together with Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi and Yehuda ben Gerim, and they were done in the Meisim of the Roim, the Roimoim, and about the establishment of what the Roimoim are doing in Eretz Yisrael. So, Pasach Rabbi Yehuda v'Omer, Kama noim ma'aseyim shel umazu, tiknu shvokim, tiknu kshorim, tiknu mechatzos. He was a diplomat. Rabbi Yehuda was the Rosh Hashanah b'chol mokim. He was trying to Kivyochol, to say a diplomatic sherei, to be meshabeach the Roimoim for establishing such infrastructure of bridges and beis merchetz and shvokim. Rabbi Yossi shosak. Rabbi Yossi was quiet. Nana Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai v'Omar kol ma shelo tiknu l'tzorich atzmum. Tiknu shvokim lohishu beim zoynes. Ma'adonai merchatzoyes la'aden es atzmum. Shorim little meches. The bridges are made to collect the toll, and the shvokim is to Moshe Zaynis, and the mechatzoyas is for them to have a good time. Yehuda ben Gerim runs and he snitches on Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai shalei before was nidin lemisa, and he runs to underground. He went together with his son Rabbi Loz Rabbi Shimon. That he had 12 years in the Me'or. That's everybody knows the Me'or of Rabbi Shimon in Pki'in. It wasn't in Meron. It was in Pki'in. And they act Baksa tree, Be'etz Charuvim and Mayan, which was Zurium there, and they learned the whole time, 12 years, while their entire body was covered with sand. Only Bizman at Tefillah they came out and they davened and they got dressed. After 12 years, Shteit Nigmora, Gikumin Elio Ano, and the Pesach and the Me'ora, and he was Media that the Kesel Roimi Meis and his Batlug Zeireisov. They walked out and they saw people battling, and they said, "Was tutzach do?" People are battling with Talmud Torah, and oiskim b'charisha bezriya. Ganze sugas agmor in Shabbos nachom gimel and beis. Everybody know what volim yeduim, and then nosan eina boy v'nisrefu. Yosef baskoil in Hashamayim v'homu l'hachri v'yilomi bosem yososem chizru l'maraschem. Go back to your cave. They went back, and they set another 12 months total, 13 years total. And they come out and they see a person that has two hadassim, the Kavod Shabbos, one for Zocher, one for Shomer, and it says, Tzuru kama chavivim mitzvahs al Yisrael. With Maisa, when he walks out, Rabbi Shimon Yochai says, Oil v'yisrachesh lo niso, we have to isken milsa, I have to be mesaken something. Why? Because Shteitoch vayovo Yaakov Sholem, when Yaakov came out, to open the Maisa vayok Sholem, Ve'omar Rav Sholem begufa Sholem b'mamoina Sholem b'teirosoi vayichan es pnei a year. The Gemara is a few man the Omi Machlekes Rav and Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan. Rav says he was mesaken matbeya, he established a coin. Shmuel Omar Shvokim, he was mesaken markets, and Rabbi Yochanan says merchatzos. Omar, he says, no, I came out, was saved of the Roman Caesar, I have to be mesaken something. State. Ike duchte de Ike besofik tume. Das ist more in Shabbos nehem shichim daf lamed daled. Ve'is leitzar lekoyenim lakufes. The halachi yisod sheneva bakeva yisod beisapras. A koyen cannot go through it, even though normal sofik tume is just a Rabi misfekator. But in the sod beisapras they're a geyser. So the kohanim, when they have to walk by in the fields of Tveria, every sofik, which is a sofik nover bakever, they have to make to go around and around. The mitzvah the kohanim, he wants the mitzvah the sod. Omar Ike Yinish the Yoda Echad is Chazek Tyra. Maybe somebody knows there was a soda that was Mischazek B'Tyra. Omar Lahu Sabo Kan Kitzetz Ben Zakai Turmusei Trume. It's not saying Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakai. Ben Zakai Kan Kitzetz Ben Zakai Turmusei Trume. He made a tahara on top of the soda. If I say the soda is kosher. Over the Iu Nami Yochi. The Gemara says Kol Echad Avekosha Tira. He dug the ground wherever it was hard. He was metai, wherever it was soft, he knew it's the dug and they made it in. The Yerushalmi state, Rashi brings down, Yerushalmi state that he poured water and some atzomis came up. In any event, he was metai with the Chachomim, with the Rabbi Lozer, his son, and with that Zokan he was metai. Omar Ausaba came out and he told the Oilom, Tier ben Yoichai beis hakvors, Beloshen liglug, Beloshen lag. Omale ilmole yisei yimonu v'afilo yisei yimonu v'lim neisi yimonu yofato imer. Hachsho sho yisei yimonu v'lim neisi yimonu yoimru zoinos mefakas zu talmid chachom l'kolshkin. I don't understand you. When I want to be mati, you were a chacham, you're a zokin, you're a member. You said Rabbi Yochanan was mekatzet trumusei trum over here. So what are you coming to say l'shanor kan hitir beis hakvoros? You're a psanai reform rabbi. Rabbi Shimon Yochai is mati ben hakvos. So the Gemara. Yoev Eina Bevenoch Nafshi. Rabbi Shimon Yochai puts his eyes, he gives him his look, and he disappears. And the Kasha is the Ben Yoda and Andre the Masho. Why does he get killed? We never find. He's Moisei Shemra. He comes in and he's Allah. He's a Moisei Shemra. What's the Allah Moisei Shemra? He has to get Saras. Why does Rabbi Shimon Yochai finds to give him such a punishment? Because he's mezalzel in this tahara of the sode. Sai through Ben Zakai and Sai through Ben Yochai. And the fourth is in unsere Gemara steht that the chet of Talmidei Rabbi Akiva was shelo nohagu kovod ze lo ze. In Medrash in Koyeles, and I'm quoting, steht andere Girse. The Talmidei Rabbi Akiva steht im lomad toteiro ben aruscho lomad beziklus she'et yom toteiro miskayemes im shel aruscho shel ziknoischo. Rabbi Akiva Omer, 12,000 תלמידים היו לי מגבס עתי וכולם עשו בפסח לעצרת בחיי. ובסוף העמידו לי 7. והראשונים לא עשו, אלו מפני שהויסו עיניהם צורו בתורה זה לזה. אתם לא תהיו כן. מיד עמדו ומילאו את כל ישראל בתורה. The first one, נשווה לא ינוהגו כובד. They had a tzara sign. מצחקיקה, there was tzara sign זה לזה. Torah cannot be miskayim in a place of tzara sign. This Ahu Sabo Ben Yochai Ben Zakai, he can't fatrog. Rabbi Shimon Ben Yochai came and was mati or something. Zogt Rabbi Akiva, we're right now going to reestablish Torah. Right now we're going to take out from the face from the Hoya Olam Shamim to make it into the Hoya Olam, reignite Torah. Somebody that does not have the Akara of not being a Tzarai doesn't have a Mokum in this world. He is a Moitzi Shemra, but such a Moitzi Shemra, in such a Tkufer, bringing the Torah from the Olam Shamim to reignite Torah, we cannot do it